What are you doing?
The storm lasts, the sun will always shine behind the cloud. No matter how long the storm lasts, the sun will always shine behind the cloud. Your setback will be a major comeback. Me pa, I only hope for long life. Bubbly water can carry rock. Then they don't take no cause to worry. Give God the glory for the little love. Give God the glory, keeping me alive. So I give God the glory for keeping me alive. Give God the glory for keeping me alive. Get a puppet glory, sorry. Give God the glory for keeping me alive. Want you got food to eat, thank you. You get more to come, thank you. You get air to breathe, thank you. Your current situation is not your final destination. No condition is permanent. Infection, starvation, temptation is not my portion. If you pray for my downfall, sorry, come and get your refund. No weapon for making me shall prosper. Cause I'm covered with the blood of Jesus. I sold my soul to the Holy Ghost. You already know I'm about to go. I walk through the valley and a shadow of death. I fear no evil. I still living slow. I'm not complaining. Oh, Lord, I'm grateful and thankful. So I give God the glory for keeping me alive. Give God the glory for keeping me alive. Headed by paper, sorry. Give God the glory for keeping me alive. Consider food to eat. Thank you. You get more to talk. Thank you. You get air to breathe. Thank you. You the public glory. You the public glory. Baba, I thank you, Daddy. I thank you. If I wanted to know what I can do, if I wanted to know what I can do, if I wanted to know what I can do, if I wanted to know what I can do, if I be home, Baba home, Una home, Baba home, Baba home, Una home. Make our way, come on. Make our way, come on. Manya come on, make our way, come on. We're back to where what is that? The flap pocket. Somebody just see the flap pocket. Manya come on, make our way. So I give God the glory for keeping me alive. Give God the glory for keeping me alive. Headed by paper, sorry. Give God the glory for keeping me alive. Consider food to eat. Thank you. You get more to talk. Thank you. You get air to breathe. Thank you. You the public glory. You the public glory. Let's do the good Sunday bar. Good to mo good. Ina inside you know. Let's do the good Sunday bar. Good to mo good. Ina inside you know.
Harvard says it's like a birthday.
Hamley Enterprises Limited, located at the Police Academy Junction, is a shipping agency ready to handle your goods from China to Liberia. We handle all from our warehouses in China. No need to stress yourself. We take care of your goods, and you can pick them up from our offices at the Police Academy Junction. We also sell solar products and can order solar grade of all sizes for you, and installations are guaranteed by our technicians. We also do professional t-shirt printing for all occasions. Contact us on telephone number 0880-340-117 or 0775-374-480 or our WhatsApp number 678-386-2499. It's Hamley Enterprises Limited, your shipping agency, ready to serve you.
We go Congo. Inside my condo, we go dance to Azonto.
Me just want give it boom boom boy. Anytime, anywhere you want. Hi guys, it's girl Miss Anda. If you're looking for
I can swear, I can joke, I think.
Makeup, they say, increases people's perception of a woman's likability, competence, and trustworthiness. That's why I introduced to you Major Millions Beauty and Market. Major Millions Beauty and Market has the best skin and hair care products. The beauty parlor also has hair accessories, including hairspray, hair gel, and hair dryer, makeup palettes, Major Millions customized lip gloss, shoes, bags, concealers, blushes, and a lot more. Guess what? Major Millions Beauty and Market has on sale well-packaged African products to include your favorite cuisine, cassava leaves, potato greens, palava sauce, palm butter, etc. Customers purchasing goods worth over 100 United States dollars will have free delivery once they are 15 minutes drive away from our location. Locate us at 10 Chestnut Drive, Elton, Maryland, 21921. Better still, call us on cell numbers 302-316-6813 or log onto our website www.majormillionsbeautysupply.com. Major Millions Beauty Supply. We move. Lopus Kitchen, a Liberian-owned business operated by Johnson and Wales University's trained chef Joyce Matowia, is your dining away from home. At Lopus Kitchen, we prepare all kinds of Liberian cuisines, including fried and rare oil potatoes green, kidney beans, palava sauce, fever leaves, and a lot more. We also make rice bread, meat pies, cookies, Benesi candies, and all kinds of pastry products. Place in your order online today from anywhere in the US at www.lorpukertchen.com. The good news is your package is sealed in an insulated cooling box and reaches your destination well preserved and fresh. Save yourself the stress and order the best from a professional chef. Lopus Kitchen keeps your fingers licking.
We all know the headache we go through sending money to our loved ones, friends, and family in Liberia. High fees, long lines in banks, the usual complaint of the system being down, such a waste of time and energy. That is why I was very happy when I learned that SendWave is now in Liberia. So now I can send money anytime from anywhere directly from my smartphone to the MTN Lone Star Cell mobile money account of a loved one, friend, or family within seconds for just a tiny fee. So download SendWave now to your phone from your Apple Store or Google Play Store. Add your details, and don't worry, they are very safe and secure. And start sending money today. Don't forget to insert the promo code COSTA to get free $5 credit added to your first transfer. SendWave is secure, super fast, and by far the most affordable way to send money to Liberia. I'm Henry P. Costa and a very happy customer. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, folks. Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the program. Today it's Tuesday, November 30th, 2021. The time in Monrovia is 7:30. The time in the United States, the East Coast, is 2:30 in the morning. And we're glad to be here. And yesterday was, we couldn't be here, of course, with the show, but I did that podcast. But we're glad to be here today. And I want to say, what a pleasure. George, good morning.
Good morning, Cause, and good morning to our listener out there. It's good to be here this morning with you.
Where's Walker?
Walker has not come yet.
So how did you spend a holiday yesterday?
My holiday was great. Spending home all day.
That's good. So that's what's great for you.
Yep.
All right, that's very good. Well, Liberians love to have fun, so every time they get the opportunity to do that, they love it. They go all out and they enjoy themselves. You know, there's something remarkable about us Liberians is that our resilience, our endurance, how much we can take and how we can manage to put a smile on our face or our faces with everything that's happening around us, all the hardship, and we're still able to do that. I remember during the war, you know, even during the war, with all the death and misery and and terror that we were experiencing. The moment we got a little ceasefire, a little respite from the war, people would start having a good time, drinking and partying. It's just an incredible thing about us, and we've always been that way. That's just us, Liberians, and that is a good thing. Our ability to be resilient, and there are also drawbacks to that attitude. So today is the birthday of former Vice President Joseph Human Boakai. He's celebrating the birthday in Bassa, Grand Bassa. And I want to say happy birthday to His Excellency Ambassador Joseph Human Boakai, former Vice President of the Republic. I chatted with him briefly last night to send him a birthday greeting. And I wish him many, 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 many years to come. And I pray that God Almighty will keep him healthy, keep him fit, and so that he can be able to take on the great task which has been assigned to him, to take our country in 2024, January, and lead us into a new Liberia. That is my prayer for Joseph Human Boakai. So today's edition of the Costa Show, we exclusively dedicated to him, and may he enjoy himself in Bassa with those wonderful people there in Grand Bassa, and that's my prayer for him. So we will, today being his birthday, we'll open the phone lines later on where people can call in and say and wish him happy birthday. I just want to say that give you an update of the situation at the border in Lofa. On Friday on the show, we discussed the situation regarding the country devil. So the Zoos and the Bodios, and they had brought out the country devil, and as we call it, and they blocked the breach right there in Salaye, Lofa County. That's the breach that lets people into Lofa. You're coming from Bon County. And so they blocked the breach, and they said they were not letting any vehicle or any traffic into Lofa County. It was a standoff. And they have one demand. The one demand is that they want their Senator-elect, Brownie J. Samukai, to be allowed to be inducted into the Liberian Senate to serve them, so that Lofa may have a full representation in the Liberian Senate. That was the demand. And so that standoff led to delayed, commercial traffic, or people trying to get into Lofa County, and it was a long standoff. And as we expected, there will be intervention from the head of the National Traditional Council, Chief Zanzan Kawo. Chief Zanzan Kawo did go there, and he had a meeting with the Zoos and the Bodios, and he being the head of the Traditional Council, he asked that they listen, that they pull back and allow traffic, and allow the smooth flow of traffic into Lofa County, And so the people agreed. Somebody said the bridge is called, the bridge is at a place called Balatoa. Well, I don't know that whether that's the name of the place, but I know by the time you cross that bridge and enter Lofa, that is Salaye. That's the Pele region of Lofa County. Salaye. Right there. So you cross and enter. From one county, so you cross that bridge and enter the Simple River. That is the place they call Salaye. The Pele people in Lofa County, that's their home. So what happened was that the people agreed, but then they gave an ultimatum. They said 72 hours. They said they were going to let traffic flow. They were going to let things improve, go back to normal, but 72 hours, 3 days. So that 72-hour ultimatum began on Friday. 72 hours. When should it lapse? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I think today. I think it should expire this afternoon or this evening, like Liberian time. So the country devil and the people agree that we will pull back and allow traffic to enter and continue to flow, but we give you 72 hours to deliver on our demand. So I heard they say some of the police people were kind of afraid of being deployed, in case the government had to resort to using force. I'm told some of the police people were not so keen on being deployed to have to deal with the country devil. George, did you hear that?
Yeah, that's why the
policemen were afraid.
But of course, if like you will stand there too.
What?
If like you will stand there.
If I wouldn't want to go, especially since I know what the country devil can do.
Sure.
So one of my man, and our man Prolific, just passed away. That crazy guy.
Yep.
Our man Prolific posted on Facebook. He said, water cannon or tear gas versus. No, versus bees. Ain't the honeybees, the bees?
Yeah, honeybee, yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, so the police people would have been shooting their tear gas while the
honeybee was spread around.
The honeybee will go sting them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the country devil can send honeybees. While the police people can shoot tear gas. No, but seriously. I'm sure a lot of police people were not so keen about being deployed to go and disperse. Who are you going to go drive? You're going to run me out of devil? The country devil? Seriously? But the country devil should return. When I say should, because I know the government will not live up to it. They're still going after Brown and Samoga over absolute nonsense, as we've said. The facts are clear. So expect the country devil to return. If the country devil doesn't return, then that means something happens somewhere.
Sure.
Samson Cowell was able to get them to agree to a 72-hour ultimatum or 72-hour period within which the government now has the opportunity to deliver on what they want them to deliver on. If they fail to deliver on that, the country devil just might return, George.
Because now, one thing, the people are right. The people are right because you cannot be holding up onto that senator for now because the man won already. Because you want to put politics into it. So they put rather do anything in low fast.
So you want the country devil to come back in?
Sure. When the country devil come out, the people will be serious.
And when the police people go there to try to shoot tear gas and water and to use the water cannon and all that kind of stuff, what the country devil should do to them?
The country devil but the country devil to how to react. People start losing too. So Joanne should get ready. Maybe you're seeing the ERU or the EFL there too.
They can't do anything to the country. Me, I wait to see. They said 72 hours. The clock started ticking on Friday. Today is Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Today's Tuesday. Yeah, today's Tuesday. So the 72 hours actually lapsed today. 72 hours.
Sure. So the government
have they announced that Rani Samukai now can go and get certificate? Because that's what the country devil wants. So we'll see. We'll be watching and we'll see that. Now the thing about it is this: the country devil and the people know that if they don't do what they said they would do, I mean they came out and the people got scared. They sent the traditional council to talk to them. If they don't do it, if they fail to to deliver on what they committed to, they need to come back out. Because if they don't come back out, what does that mean? It means that the people will not have any respect for them. That's what they need to do. That's what they need to do. Now, I want to make an announcement. So, about a month ago, the COP had a meeting, the Council of Patriots. And the national leadership of the COP, it was about 22 executives who attended that meeting. That's just about 97% of the membership of the National Executive Committee of the COP. So we had a meeting, and in that meeting, we decided that Mr. Mobake Yogbo, who at the time was our Secretary General, was not very accessible or effective since he took his position as Director of Communications for Mr. Ellis Cummins. You know, he got appointed months ago. But so it was always difficult getting Mr. Yogbo to do his work because he's been very busy with Mr. Cummins. And of course, with the COP, he doesn't get paid, but with Mr. Cummins, he gets paid. So he has to, you know, that's the job that pays him, and we don't pay him. And so we had a discussion with Mr. Yogbo, and we told him, look, we think that, you know, you should move up to the National Advisory Council of the COP, which is still a member. That is that would make him still a member of the Executive Committee of the COP, but that he can no longer remain in the position as Secretary General because the exigencies of his duties as Director of Communications for Mr. Cummins were hindering his performance as Secretary General of the COP. And we can appreciate that. We can understand that. So Mr. Yogbo tried to make the case that he could still do both jobs, but the Executive Committee thought otherwise. And they made a decision. There were 22 people in the Executive Committee meeting, and of the 22 people, 19 of them voted to remove Mr. Yogbo from his position because they asked him to step aside, and Mr. Yogbo said he wasn't going to voluntarily step aside because he still wanted to perform as Secretary General. And the body believed that Mr. Yogbo could no longer effectively serve as Secretary General, while at the same time serving as Mr. Cummins' Director of Communications. So the executive committee took a decision, and they said that he should move up to some other role. So Mr. Yogbo was not removed from the COP. He was simply removed from his position and moved up to the same committee that Senator Darius Dillon chairs, that other officials of the COP sit on, including Mo Ali. So that's what happened. So Mr. Mobake Yagwa is no longer the Secretary General of the Council of Patriots. He is now a member of the National Advisory Council. And so he's still an executive official. He's still an official of the leadership, but he's not being able to serve effectively since he became Director of Communications for Mr. Cummins. As you can recall, as you all may know, the Secretary General is supposed to be a very active position. That individual should be very active, and they run the Secretariat. They basically keep the movement vibrant. But unfortunately, Mr. Yogba has not been able to do that since he assumed his new role as Director of Communications. So we did give him some time. He was, for a few months, we waited to see how Mr. Yogba would perform, but clearly his attention was more focused to his job with Mr. Cummins, and there's nothing wrong with that. The COP does not pay Mr. Yogba, so we will not sit here to badmouth Mr. Mobake Yogba. We thank him for his time as Secretary General and the work that he did, the enthusiasm and the vibrancy that he brought on board when he took the role, and we appreciated that. So now, in the next week or two, the executive committee of the COP will launch a recruitment exercise where we will solicit and receive for onward vetting applications from interested individuals, and we will vet them thoroughly. This is not just about qualification or whether you are able to effectively run the secretariat of the COP, but whether you have the credibility, whether we can trust you, whether you have the right mix of philosophical and ideological grounding. We want to make sure of that, because it's some people, we all know what a COP can do, George, you know. I recall Mr. Yogbo, a fine young man, very brilliant. It was I who suggested that we make Yogbo our Secretary General, and our people agreed, you know. And so when we agreed that we should, I consulted Mo Ali because Mo Ali was leaving, and we needed somebody else, somebody up to the task. And we brought Yogbo on board. And when we announced Yogbo, a lot of people didn't know Yogbo. Most of you here watching did not know who he was. Most of you. But the COP made Mr. Yogbo an instant national figure. That's what we did. And Mr. Yogbo realizes that. When Mr. Yogbo was named Secretary General, it was national news. He was in the news. And we did everything we could to support him. But then the ANC decided to go and recruit Mr. Yogbo to join them. And we felt there was nothing wrong with that, because many of the people in the executive leadership and who are in the rank and file and the membership of the COP, they belong to political parties. So there was absolutely nothing wrong with Mr. Yogbo joining a political party. But we all know why the ANC went after Yogbo. They recruited him because the COP had just named him the Secretary General. And before he was named Secretary General, no political party went after him, you know, but they went after him after we named him Secretary General. It's okay. And then that was not enough. Then they went after him again to become Director of Communications. Now, you know, now Mr. Yogbo had to do, you know, both. He had to do communication for COP and communication for Ellis Cummins. And so that was a problem. And so Mr. Yogbo did a good job for us while he served, and we did an even greater job for Mr. Yogbo. We made him a national political figure. That's what we did for him. So it was a win-win relationship, and we thank him. And he is still an official of the COP. So I call on all COP members, continue to accord Mr. Yokbo the deference and respect that he deserves. Good. We're gonna go and open the phone lines, and people can call in, and you want to wish happy birthday to Joseph Boakai. You have the right to do that. The Liberia National Bar Association elections were held. I'd like to know who won the election. There was some interesting developments. The bar, they did a lot of things. Councillor Gonglo, I'm told, did not run for re-election. I'm told a lot of people were disqualified. About 34 people, 34 lawyers who wanted to participate in the elections were disqualified. They made a decision that those lawyers did not meet the minimum standards that was set. Councillor Gonglo himself, I'm told, disclosed at a news conference, at a press conference, at a press briefing, that those people did not meet the minimum requirements. So that's why they didn't make it. But I'd like to know who won the election as president of the Baha'i Association. We know how it was when Teon Gonglo was the head. We know he did a great job. It's a great man of integrity. I have tremendous respect for Councillor Teon Gonglo. He's one of the few good men in Liberia who's been tried and tested. And we hope that the person who replaces him as president of the Bar Association will have, a decent modicum of the integrity that Teon Gonglo brought to the job. We hope that. I don't even think that person can measure up to Teon Gonglo, whoever that person is, but at least I hope they can have a little bit of the integrity and the courage that Teon Gonglo has. That's all I can hope for. There are not many men in Liberia like Teon Gonglo, unfortunately. And that is a sad reality. Is there some Councillor Sylvester Rennie? I don't know him, but I know one thing. I haven't heard of anything about him, good or bad, but I don't think he measures up to Teon Gonglo, period. Most Liberians, especially lawyers, people who have done well for themselves, they're selfish. They look out only for themselves. They don't care about the general society. They care about their own further aggrandizement and how they do well. And they don't take any risk. They don't stand up for what benefits the bigger society. Is always about themselves. So Mr. Rennie, I don't know who Rennie is, and I don't know what his level of integrity is. Well, somebody says, I think he's okay. Okay is what some Liberians are. Most Liberians don't care, and that is the truth. This is a country where integrity and courage, and the courage to stand up, is a rare thing. Most people don't believe in anything in Liberia. Most people don't stand for anything, and that's why the country is it is. We have a culture of silence, a country where people don't stand up for anything. People want to look out for themselves and their friends. And some of us who don't give a damn and can tell our own people the truth, and some people don't like us. But I don't really give a damn, because you see, and sometimes people tell me, "Oh, Costa, you can't say this, you can't say that, because it's not politically correct to say that, and people are not going to be happy with you." But I don't really care whether people are happy with me or not. I just try to be right. I try to do what I believe is right. I try. I don't always get it right all the time. It's a difficult thing. It's a very lonely thing to speak truth to power, to tell your friends they're wrong when they're wrong. And so it's a very tough thing. In Liberia, we sit there, we see terrible things happen, we flow with it. As long as it doesn't bother us personally, it's okay. If somebody else's father gets murdered, and we suspect, we think we know who did it, but we're gonna all keep quiet because we don't want to be offend. We don't want to offend the powers that be. We don't want to rub them off in the wrong way, and so that's the way we are. A culture of silence, a culture of complicity, a culture of acquiescence. Because you're silent, you allow things to happen, and people get away with it, and because it doesn't bother you personally. Until it bothers you personally, then it is an issue. It's a sad thing. It's a very, very sad thing. We're going to go to the phone lines. George, we're going to take some calls there. And let's see what our people have to say. You can reach Joe Wakai. Happy birthday. He celebrates his birthday today. He's in Grand Bassa. Let's go to the phone lines.
Okay, the numbers to call on the show this morning.
And not only that, you're welcome to say whatever else you have to say. Today is not just to say happy birthday to Joe Wakai. We're doing our normal show, but you're welcome to say happy birthday to him if you want to. If you want to. You don't have to. If you don't want to.
Okay, the numbers to call this morning on the show 0770-102-102, 0886-010-TD8TD. The WhatsApp number +2 TD1 880-51341. Okay. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, George.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to Herman Pedro Costa. This is DJ Lemaire.
Good morning, my brother.
Let me say good morning to the whole families, which is Herman Costa and George. And let me say belated happy birthday to Honorable Baha'i. May God continue to bless him. May God continue to guide him, and may God continue to give him that strength. For those that say that, they make him move the hand, he can't move the leg. But yesterday they saw him taking out a powerful kick off. And Costa, something back for me this video when I heard Honorable Sir Joseph saying the vice president he got contact. They simply where the vice president went. Is this the first time the vice president meeting that group? For Sir Joseph to be running around with him and the station, the Freedom FM, other people, the vice president didn't get contact. They simply go there for the president go big. So if Labrock get mad, Labrock instead Ghana not to go to America because you are British colonial. So say Labrock, I can go to America. You Ghanaians don't go there. You see the people can just run cheap policy and listen to them and I just laugh. They go no Baka, now no Baka first time in that group. He went there before and he brought drugs from there. And the second time he go there, he brought drugs. He saw the people, the whole entire staff from here down. They took photo with me. They say the simple way I go there, that I play again, go lobby this and that. Then the next thing is the budget issue. The 100% equipment that they say the dehumanization to the lawmakers and things. In fact, they are even giving them more because I learned that they were making 15. Now they're going to be making 20. This is the time for yesterday I was watching a forecast. This is the time for Honorable Lauren, Honorable Delon, and other people getting them to come out and condemn this thing because first of all, the president didn't learn. He said they're not the one that can crack the budget. He said the budget don't come from them. But surprising to us that people think the president learn. Look at economic theory. Then they think they may get master. I wonder where they may get a master degree from or how you got it. So
okay, my brother, thank you.
What you said yesterday, I fought with you that the COP and the CPP should talk on the budget issue. You shouldn't leave that up because we're so now the poor people that deduct the salary will not get anything. But then the higher we get President we get all the money in his place there. So this morning I said thank you for bringing that up and we'll continue to listen to Group FM and the Voice FM and we'll continue to listen to the people of the COP. Anything to say, I'd like to say good day to Mobile Support. Thank you for all making you. You can go on with your life. May God bless you wherever you go. Thank you this morning, my brother.
Okay, DJ Lomet, thank you. The numbers to call 0770-102-102, 0886-010-TD8TD. The WhatsApp number +2 TD1.
I just want to say something to what brother DJ Lomet said there. So I never heard the comments Sir Joseph is said to have made, to which our brother DJ Lomet alluded. But if indeed he said, and I believe him, this man follows events, he knows what's happening, he knows, that Sir Joseph did say that Joe Boakai went to the same people that he went to. Sir Joseph has a lot of contacts in the United States. That's true. He gets help from people for different kinds of things, ambulances, medical supplies, and equipment. That's true. But the Project Keo people that Sir Joseph has been getting medical supplies and things from, Joe Boakai has also known them for years, for many years. This is not the first time he met them. Maybe Sir Joseph doesn't know this, but this is not the first time he met them. And that's why even the president of Project Keo, Dr. Douglas Jackson himself, was there to take Joe Boakai on a personal tour of their warehouse in Arizona. So this is not the first time that Joe Boakai had met these people. This is not. So I just wanted to say that. So maybe Senator Sir Joseph doesn't know this, but Project Keo is the largest donor of medical equipment around the world. They ship about 244 containers of medical equipment and supplies to about 135 countries. They've shipped equipment to about 135 countries around the world. And so this is not their first time dealing with Joe Boakai. Yes, it is true that Sir Joseph knows them, and he's gotten medical equipment and supplies from them, which is a good thing because he brings those equipment to Liberia and it helps people. But this is not Joe Boakai's first time dealing with them. So, and I don't think it's wrong that Sir Joseph and Joe Boakai can go to the same place to ask for things for the same country. Right, George? There's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
You and I can go to the same place and we can ask for things to help our people. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So maybe he didn't know. But this is not Joe Boakai's first time dealing with Project Keo. And of course, Sir Joseph does deal with Project Keo. He's been dealing with them for some time now. But let's go back to the phone lines and take some more calls there.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning, George. Good morning, Costa. Good morning to our supporters who have long awaited and have some concern from the absence of my voice on this platform. This is Noah Zau Gibson. And I'm in from Grand Bassa County, Buchanan, where I am in the company right now of our powerful chairperson of the Congress, of the COP. Here's the thing. Listen, this issue about whether they know, or the same person Joe Boakai, or the same person Sir Joseph went to, not the same person Joe Boakai went to, it's not an issue. It's not an issue. The first thing, the international community is there for everybody. This is what you understand. Okay. Let me ask Sir Joseph and post on the CDC. So it said because the United States has partners with other African countries, like Liberia. So because of that, Ghana shouldn't go to the United States for assistance as well. So is that an issue? This is not an issue. But here's the thing that I'd like to talk about, Costa. The money has arrived in the country. In fact, 4 billion of the 100 denomination has arrived in the country. And the second part of 4 billion is arriving next, that is month after next, which will be January. That's 8 billion alone in denomination. Now, I can tell you, because a few weeks from now, the rate is about to skyrocket. The rate will skyrocket even beyond where it was. That I can tell you, and I think it will be okay for the rate to be up, Costa, because the rate there, it is having no trickle down effect on our lives. Prices really will soon, and you change $5, it gives you 700, and then when you go buy something at 1,000, you have to still ask $300 labor fee in $5. So what is the essence? Let the rate remain up until we can get the CPC government that will come and stabilize it, which will have a lot of technical including people like you with your good advisory knowledge that will assist us. And as I conclude, I want to say happy birthday to GMB. This development is not related, it's today. So I want to say happy birthday to GMB, and that's why we are here along with Mohammed S. our dynamic chair of the COPU wing, who really did extremely well last night. At least he paid host to me. Thank you all so much.
Okay, Noah. Thank you, Dad. The WhatsApp number +231 5134 17 0770 102 102 0886 010 TD. The WhatsApp number again +231 5134 17.
Yep, that's the WhatsApp for people from the diaspora to call in without having to pay any money. Well, once you have data, you can call. You don't need to pay to use regular credit to call in. We're gonna take Larry Kennedy wants to join us. So he wants to join us this morning. He wants to talk about the budget. So I'm gonna connect with Larry Kennedy shortly. George, I'm gonna send you some songs that we need to play, and we need to promote them. George, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Cos.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you 2 songs that we need to promote, and from a Liberian guy called Tugbe, and one is called Koko Lioko, and the other one is called Come Back to Me. So I'm gonna send you those songs now, but take another caller there. If you have another caller, take that caller.
No calls yet.
Okay, all right, hold on, hang in there, and I'm gonna send the other one here to you. So these 2 songs we will play. We will play one today towards the end of the show. Don't forget to remind me. And,
okay, I'll do that.
And then every morning, then tomorrow we'll play another one, and then every morning you will play them, on just before we come on, trying to promote these songs. All right, let me copy this link to get Larry Kennedy to join us this morning. Folks, you all remember we used to have Larry on.
Cos, we have Mark Chabate on the line too.
Oh yeah, let's talk to Mark. It's okay. Put him on.
Hey, morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mark.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Costa.
Mark, good morning.
Fine, thank you, and Costa, and I call you to make delivery clarification. You know you are a very good brother, and we've been working together, but maybe you will not understand the way I preach my politics. And the little boy that in the studio, your boy, once all, and when you send me in Afghanistan to circumcise the cakes, I sent him the video 4 months ago to send it to you. I even call him. I can send the video to Costa because it's difficult to get Costa on hand. So what I did, and he was that a second star, he took a medical doctor from JFK. I transported him. He charged me $200, which I did. He came and spent 2 days there in the towns there, and I fed him and I transported him all. So I can't believe you because the way they passed the information to you, it was wrong. And it is your right to ask because you raised the phone. Other people will say, oh, why is it we are not getting from Costa? They were necessary to bring it out. But the guy, you're picking up in the studio, you can ask him. I sent him the video. I communicated with him. I said, send the video to Costa that have done the work. Because where I in Buffalo, there is no network. So that's what clarification I want to make, brother. And I was able to circumcise the boys, and I gave them 1 becker rice. I gave them cash and thing with me, ball jobs and all. Yes, you don't think are very, very expensive in Malabiro. Especially
all right, Mark. Mark, thank you very much.
Okay, Mark.
Thank you very much. Okay, so to his credit, George, was it you he gave the video to? He sent it to me?
Yep, and I sent it that down.
That time, so you did not send me any video?
Check your messenger.
How did you send it to me?
Through messenger.
But you didn't tell me about it. You probably just sent me a random video without telling me. George, be honest now. Did you tell me specifically, Chief, this is a video Mike Jabate asked me to send to you.
Nope.
So, but you just send it to me, right?
Yep.
All right, George. You know how many things I receive every day, even from you. I would not just watch any video you send me. If you didn't tell me what it's about, I wouldn't just watch it, George. So it's true. Mike Jabate posted that video in August, and it was during that time we gave Mike Jabate the money. So the reason I know is because somebody sent me the link. I think Buakai sent me the link because after he sent it to George, and then George sent it to me, but George didn't say what type of video he was sending. So then, because we raised the money, about $600, for Mike to go and do the circumcision of those boys, and we wanted him to report back to us so that we can tell the public that the project was done, that those boys were circumcised. But we could not, and we kept asking questions. And so George admits that Mike Jabate did send him the video several months ago. So Mike, we want to thank you for what you did. And we did watch the video. We shared the video. Over 20,000 people watched the video so far. And so a lot of people saw it, and they thank you for what you did there in Bapoli, circumcising these boys. Larry, good morning.
Good morning, Don Pedro. How you doing, man?
We're doing good, man. We're very glad to have you this morning.
Yeah, glad to be here. George, how you doing there, man?
I'm doing great, and you?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right.
Because we have somebody on the line, they want to say something quick.
Yes, please. Take that person quick, then we'll go to Larry.
Yep. Good morning.
Good morning, of course, and good morning, George. This is Parker Kamara calling from Pembasa County.
Welcome, Parker.
Yeah, on the issue about my video.
Parker, you going to Pembasa?
Yep.
Now they always say come in to wear the money.
Go ahead, Parker.
Yes, so on the issue about the video, there are two types of video Mark's talking about here. The first video that he talked about is about the one that he interviewed the children before the circumcision, and the second video is the one when he already did the circumcising, and then he sent the video. The one that he sent previously was the one that he did the interview before the circumcision of the children. So there are two types of videos actually make up to understand. The one when he got to circumcising the children there was sent at the last, and the one where he done the interview with the children was sent previously. So there are two types of videos. I just wanted to make that correction.
Okay. Thank you, Blogger. And enjoy yourself. You must take down with a dumbbell and the fufu in Basa. All right, Larry. Good to have you, man.
Yeah, my man. It's been a while. Been very busy.
I know.
But the budget kind of caught my attention over the past week or so, and I looked at it and I couldn't believe it. I said, "Wow, these guys."
So Larry, these guys are bragging about this budget. It's $735 million, the biggest budget since the end of the war, and blah 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 blah. It's going to make a great impact. But man, you've been looking at it. What are the key things that you've noticed so far that don't sit well with you?
I mean, the first thing is you're saying, okay, 785.6 million. So why didn't they just round it up to a cool 800 million? Why didn't they just take it up even to 1.5 billion? What stopped them? Because your budget needs to be credible. These sort of budgets, when you create them, it's like going to a party on Saturday. You go to a party, you drink all night, you hang out, you break every sin in the Bible. But the next day, what happens? You pay the price. You have a hangover. There's an effect to everything that you've done the night before. This budget, somebody has to pay for it. And just coming up with some wild number, 785.6 million. At the end of the day, someone has to pay for it. And how and who's going to pay for it will be the Liberian people. This is like watching a bad movie. We've seen this is like part 3 to a bad movie. In part 1, there was 16 billion missing. It brought the eyes of the international community to Liberia. You know, we saw Al Jazeera, we saw Reuters, we saw all these guys out there taking a look at Liberia. In part 2, there was a mop-up of 25 million to this movie. In a mop-up exercise, what happened? You had the finance ministry playing the role of the monetary policy guys of the central bank. Where in the world does the finance ministry act as the central bank? Only in Liberia. And despite what they may try to say, that whole mop-up was a sham. That was part 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that led to them losing. You see, when they had the mop-up, they entered into ended up going to the IMF to borrow money eventually. And when you go, here's the problem. When you go to the IMF to borrow money and they put you in this ECF program, it comes with a lot of restrictions.
The extended credit facility program.
Yeah, it comes with a lot of restrictions.
Yep.
And that led to the harmonization.
It's like a straight jacket thing. The IMF dictates to you.
They essentially come and what they're dictating to you may not necessarily run well for your country because it led to the harmonization, which is another form of austerity.
They made them do that. Precisely.
Yeah. And now we're in part 3, a bloated budget that is 46.7% greater than the previous budget. What is the justification for that?
But you see, Larry, a good chunk of that money is borrowed money as well. When you look at the budget, but who brags about money that you're borrowing?
But they're not borrowing from the capital markets. They're borrowing from the IMF. They're doing bilateral. It's like who brag about going to get a payday loan?
Exactly. How is that a big thing that you're going to get a loan?
Nobody brags about getting a payday loan or going to get a title loan. Nobody brags about that stuff. But here's the thing. They are trying to implement modern monetary policy in a poor, low-developed country. It doesn't work. So a lot of countries, so if you take a look at the data, out of 228 countries, maybe about 3 or 4 of them have a balanced budget. The U.S. runs a huge budget deficit.
Every year.
But the U.S. can print money.
Quantitative easing.
They have that ability to print money. The U.S. borrows money using 4 strategies. And this is what we did for years. 35 years I've been in the financial economics arena. What the U.S. does is to borrow money using 4 types of instruments. They use bonds, they use treasury notes, they use treasury bills, and then they use something called TIPS, Treasury Inflationary Protected Securities. I noticed one time John Davis and Samuel Twer was trying to discuss this treasury inflationary securities. They didn't do a good job of it. I don't think they understand how it actually works, right? But the U.S. can borrow money from the capital markets. Ghana can borrow money. Ghana raised over $1 billion to support the education system. When Ghana said free tuition, they had a way to pay for it. How are these guys going to pay for this? I mean, come on. This is going to lead to debt crisis in the country. You know, they have no way of paying for it.
Our debt stock keeps going up, Larry.
It's doubled.
And the sad thing about it, Larry, when we borrow the money, they don't invest the money in things that can really help the economy grow. They put the money in these stupid community roads that they build, which have very little economic rate of return, very little economic benefits. They don't invest the money in electricity expansion, for example.
Right.
Other things in the economy, they don't. And Larry, that's why the economy is just stagnated. It can't move.
That's why you got stagflation. And you're absolutely correct, Pedro. It wouldn't be so bad if they were taking the money and investing it in something that would grow the economy, but they're not doing that. The change in the Ministry of State budget is one of the largest changes I've seen in a while. And in fact, the change in the Ministry of State budgets is even higher than the combined changes in the Ministry of Education, University of Liberia.
And why is that? Because the money goes to the president.
It goes to the president. And what are they using it for? Lobbying?
Yep, of course. That's where the money comes from, Larry. Those 7 different, how many lobbying deals they have?
Around 7 or so. And right now, they signed a contract in August to pay $55,000 a month until 2024, until after the election. Why you gonna sign a contract?
Hold up, Larry. Did they just sign a new one?
No, this one been out there since August. But I don't think.
I didn't know about this one. So it's what? How much a month?
They're paying around $55,000 a month. Around 560,000 a year. But the crazy thing is,
what are the guys going to be doing for them?
The crazy thing is the contract runs until after this administration. If this administration is still there, yeah, fine. But it runs until 2024. This contract.
$500,000 a year until 2024.
Until 2024.
And what exactly does the contract say? What does this?
It's supposed to be. It's supposed to promote the president. It's supposed to.
President?
That's part of it. Yeah, it's supposed to promote the bicentennial celebration in Liberia. Why would you give the money to lobbyists to promote bicentennial when you can have a tourism board, or you can have? And I know there's some good Liberians in Georgia.
$500,000 a year.
A year. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money they're paying.
And they obligate the country to this deal until 2024 because they think they're going to be in power.
Yeah.
Larry.
They don't understand lobbying. You saw the nonsense with the whole sham saying you're going to get Lindsey Graham to lobby for MCC.
Yeah. And whatever came of that.
So waste of time and effort.
We flunked our scorecard. Now let's talk about that, Larry. 3 years in a row, we have flunked. Sierra Leone passed with flying colors.
Mm-hmm.
They got additional $400 million. They got a new MCC compact, package of $400 million. Liberia has failed 3 years in a row. Don't these guys get it, Larry? Were they not bragging that Lindsey Graham was going to write a letter of support to his colleagues in the Senate so that they can influence a $500 million package MCC funding? Well, Larry, do these guys not know how to do a simple Google search to know how the MCC works?
You're talking about the people who signed the Eton deal doing a Google search?
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
all right, let me just,
If the same people who signed that deal, those same people can't do a Google search. No, they don't know how.
They haven't worked in that space where you're doing analytical, you're doing detailed analytical searches. They haven't worked in that space in an advanced economy where you put your job on the line, where if the finance minister fails 3 years in a row on the fiscal side, he gets fired.
Yep.
You can't work in corporate America for over 2-3 decades and be bad at your job and still have that job. Not going to happen. Look at even the guy at Twitter, the co-founder of Twitter.
Jack Dorsey, he's stepping down.
He had to step down because Twitter stock hasn't done so well since he's been there when other tech stocks have done extremely well.
Even though he's the co-founder of Twitter, but he's stepping down.
Because he hasn't performed well.
Thank you. Because the shareholders, through the board, they want him gone.
They want him gone. It's all about maximizing profit.
And not fattening.
Yeah.
I mean, we are catching hell and Samuel Tweste has a job.
So, look, the budget is a sham. It's a sham. When you look on the revenue side, it's a scam. When you look on the expenditure side, it's a sham. And when they talk about saying the economy is scheduled to grow, when you look at the first few pages, it talks about the economy is scheduled to grow at 3.2%. That's nonsense. What they're referring to is there's a percentage change in a growth. Percentage change is not the same as growth rate. Percentage change are 3.2% because remember now, since these guys came in, the economy has been contracting year over year. The economy, the total production in the economy was around, I think, 3.285 billion. It's down to a little under, it might be around 2.9 billion. So it has contracted.
That's our GDP you're talking about.
The total GDP, the total production of goods and services in the country, it has contracted.
We've also seen, like a wipe out of about 5-6%.
Yeah.
Of the national, the gross national income.
Wealth.
Yeah,
and what makes it worse? What makes it worse? Foreign direct investment. And please, folks, this is coming from the World Bank and the IMF data. If you want the link, I can share it with you. You can go and see it. The finance ministry says one thing in public. When you go to the IMF website, you see, if you're going to borrow money from the IMF wants you to put in details why you need to borrow this money. So they say one thing in public. But then when you go and you read the letters that they sent to the IMF, this kind of speak the truth. How are you going to raise all this money, this revenue, when your foreign direct investments have fallen? year over year, when it came in around 2017, if I remember correctly, I believe foreign direct investment, a new data just came in from the US. And year over year, it has fallen by, I believe, 54% since they came in, foreign direct investments. So how are you going to generate income, revenue from taxes when people don't have income at that level? It's not going to happen. So the revenue side is bogus.
You see, Larry, that's why when they announced this budget and started bragging about it, you see, a budget doesn't operate in a vacuum. The revenue envelope only expands or grows when there's greater purchasing power.
Right.
From having disposable incomes. And when people spend, that's what leads to increasing demand. That's what leads to more revenue being generated. But we're not seeing that.
It's not happening.
This defies every economic principle there is.
And when you do even a time series analysis, when you look at the budgets over, and you cannot look at the budget before Ebola, because Ebola changed everything, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And coronavirus has also changed everything. So you have to look at the budget in maybe a 5 to 6 year time frame. Look at the budget over the past several years. It's either increased slightly, maybe 1 or 2 percentage point, or it's gone down maybe 4 or 5 percentage point based on the previous year's analysis. This budget, they're increasing revenue, or they're asking, or they're suggesting, they're projecting that revenue is going to increase by 46.7%. What is the justification for that? Oh, read the first few pages. The justification is optimism. That's what they said.
No budget is based on optimism. It's based on realistic forecasting.
So you can do your little qualitative analysis. You can say, oh, optimism is all subjective, right? That's your belief. But even if I put a little pinch of optimism in it, 46%, you think you're going to raise? I don't know what kind of...
The guys are delusional, Larry. So Larry, yes, what we're hearing, right? When you look at the way the budget is crafted, the CDC has a strategy, and all of what you see is a strategy toward 2023, period. That's what it is. Their strategy is how they can create this facade, this impression that the economy is doing well. But Larry, you cannot create a facade about your economy, because the reality is felt by those who live within your country, who live within the economic space. They know how hard things are. They're experiencing inflation. Are we not yet qualified to be called a hyperinflation? Isn't that what we have, Larry? We do, right?
But you see, the fact that they've kind of played with the numbers a little bit, it doesn't show. You see, like, say, for example, the hyperinflation in Zimbabwe. You can be sitting down in a restaurant eating a bowl of soup, and the price of the soup will double while you're still sitting in the restaurant. While you're still eating the soup,
No, that's not the type of inflation we have. Thankfully.
That's not the type of inflation we have. So that's at that level. Same thing over in Venezuela. And with Zimbabwe, how did Zimbabwe solve that problem? They went full dollarization. They just decided one day, hey, we're going to stop using our currency. We're going to go full dollarization. And immediately all of that was kind of resolved.
Brought under control.
Yeah. But what we've been in is a long extended recession, because the economy has been shrinking year over year over year for 3 consecutive years. It's only this year that the IMF has come out and said the percentage change in your GDP or your total production is going to increase. Doesn't mean the economy has grown.
It doesn't mean it has happened. It's a projection.
It's a projection.
Based on certain things you need to do.
And the IMF has been wrong. Consistently, the IMF has been wrong. What these guys are doing...
That's why the IMF keeps changing the numbers, Larry. Every time they're readjusting the numbers.
If these guys were so good at their job, they wouldn't need... So right now, Pedro, I don't know how many people know this, but there is a company, they're based in Virginia. They're actually a British company, have an office in Virginia. It's called Nathan and Associates. Nathan and Associates are being paid $4 million a year to offer advice on the fiscal side, and even on the monetary side. They're going to be part of trying to grow the Liberian economy. So you have the IMF telling them on one hand how to adjust their fiscal policies. Then you have Nathan and Associates being paid $4 million a year, up to about $16 million, telling them how to adjust their monetary policy as well. Mm-hmm. They're not running the country. It's the international community right now dictating what they need to do on the fiscal and monetary side because they lack the capacity. But you made a good point. If they were using this money, let's say, for example, all things being equal, this budget is going to pass. If inside the budget they were creating opportunities to grow the economy, then you can say, okay, they're going to get money to pay the debt. Pedro, have you seen in the budget how much they're going to pay to service the debt in 2022?
No, what's it?
It's about 125 million. It's about 125 million. That's a lot of money coming out of the budget.
Toward development.
Exactly. They're getting themselves caught up in a debt trap. Liberian people have to pay for it. But here's the problem. The legislators are not, they don't have a, you know how in the US you have the Congressional Budget Office? You know, you have a team of analysts that would sit there, break this budget down in the US and then say, hey, here's our recommendation because what the government is saying.
Larry, just give them what they want, that's all.
This budget passed, this government is going to lose the election guarantee in 2023.
Well, we will see. They've increased their budgets, their respective budgets. For example, the president's office is the Ministry of State. They've racked up the budget. And the thing is simple, Larry. They want to have more money to be able to campaign.
And that's going to lead to inflation because they're going to put more money out there. But the problem is they're going to increase the debt. They're going to increase the overall debt. And then we need to borrow money again. And it will go back to the IMF. And the IMF will hit them with more stringent policies. And that's why they're going to lose the election in 2023.
Because these stringent policies will not allow them to a lot of wiggle room to do things they will need to do to try to politically appease the electorate.
It will put them into a strong, tight austerity position where they will end up losing. In 2017, when Madame Sirleaf posted a budget shortfall, I think of about 41 million. You can go to Front Page Africa, you'll see the article there. When they posted a budget shortfall of about 41 million, these guys lost their mind. Budget shortfall of 41 million, Jesus Christ. You know how much budget shortfall these guys have? These guys posted the largest budget shortfall in the history of the country, or a little over 200 million. They may claim it's not true, but remember when we started discussing the budget shortfall, they took down at one time they took down the information from the central bank's website.
Yep. They had an annual report from the CBO. They took it down.
They took it down. And eventually
the thing about that report doesn't only talk about, it didn't just talk about the shortfall. It talked about the sources of the shortfall. You know, the significant decline in international trade taxes and all that kind of stuff. Because imports were significantly reduced, because consumer spending had reduced, because disposable incomes had reduced. This is like a chain reaction.
That's what happened in Greece. And when we were trading Greece bonds, you know, the Greek bonds, the Italian bonds, it happened in Italy as well. Greece did the exact same thing. They got into this whole spending spree. They started, you know, they had bloated budgets. And then eventually they had to pay. And what happened? They brought in the IMF. And when they brought in the IMF, that created a whole lot of issues, a lot of protests.
A big political crisis.
That's how Greece had the financial troubles.
The IMF's, their policies have led to, what do they call it? SAP, Structural Adjustment Program.
Yep.
The IMF, the SAPs have led to countries and governments being
replaced.
Yeah.
It happened in Ghana.
It happened in Ghana, it happened in Jordan, it happened in many countries.
It happened in Jordan. Exactly. Yeah. The prime minister in Jordan had to tender his resignation to the king.
Yep. Because
they were in that structural program by the IMF. Yeah.
The IMF detect everything from whether you can subsidize your farmers or whether you can do this, what type of stuff you can buy. But these boys don't care. They want temporary relief.
It's going to backfire now.
We have a situation here where we know very well that the legislature will definitely do what they want them to do. They're going to vote for the budget.
And that's going to be.
And sadly,
so
sad. The situation we find ourselves in.
So sad, so sad. And then it would be an opportunity for the people to look back and say, hey, everyone who voted for this budget, maybe we need to get rid of them. Maybe we need a clean house. Because they're not in the interest of the people.
Most Liberians are not sophisticated. Most Liberians don't read the budget as you would take your time to read it, as I would. But they feel the impact of the economic policies that the government prosecutes. They feel the impact. At the end of the day, you don't need to lecture them on the fact that prices are high or higher than they used to be. That disposable incomes are affected. That electricity is a big problem. It's more unreliable than it used to be. And that the government is not doing anything to address these cardinal issues. So they know.
They're not investing in the future, man, because look at this budget. Is there any, and I think I remember you mentioned it as well. Is there anything in there discussing investment in the internet?
No, Larry, look, Larry, there's just something wrong with us. Speaking about the internet, Larry, there's something called investment indicators. Every investor would look out for certain things before they go into a country. First, they look for the potential, what they want to invest in. Then they look for the indicators. Do you have affordable, reliable power? Do you have good internet, roads, and security, and these things, and your economic policies, your tax policies, you know, and all the kind of things. The ease of doing business in the country.
The ease of doing business.
Larry, we fail in all these areas, Larry.
And I always say this: these guys, they've read the theory, they've read the books. There are a lot of theoretical people in there who's read the book.
Well, Samuel Toa is one of them.
Reading a book is different from the practical experience. You can read all your your books on biology, but the man sitting down over in River Cess, who's been living in the bush, that man knows more about some of the plants in that bush that can kill you than you who've been sitting down in Harvard reading a book and saying, oh, I saw the picture of this plant in a book. That man knows because from generation to generation, he has practical experience.
That's been passed on to him.
These guys have read the book, but they haven't been in the field where you have to deal with this stuff, where you have to do financial analysis, economic analysis, financial econometric models. They haven't really sat in the field where if you look, let me tell you something. We had a guy one time, he made a mistake on about $700 million. We had to fire him the next day. If you consistently make the level of mistakes these guys are making, somebody will have to go. They need to invest in education, switch the budget around, take money from the Ministry of State, put it in education.
Larry, in this budget, they're proposing to spend $47 million on transparency and accountability institutions or integrity institutions, the LACC, the GAC, and the IAA. And these, what do they, because whatever audits are conducted by the GAC never lead to prosecution or any attempt to recover what people stole. What the LACC doesn't prosecute anybody to recover anything they stole. So we're pouring $47 million into these institutions merely to create the impression that we have them functional, but they really produce no results for the country.
Nothing. You can't even measure it.
No,
and
you
does
can't
the
quantify what they produce.
Yeah, does the LACC have a very good website where the average citizen, students from the university, can go and take a look and say, okay.
Forget website. When was the last time they prosecuted anybody for corruption and found them guilty?
Nothing. And the evidence can be so blatant. Nothing happens.
And we're pumping $47 million into them a year.
Yeah.
$47 million that could easily go to improving education and healthcare.
Healthcare. That's why you need the internet. When you go around Monrovia, you'll see people then digging holes to bury the fiber optics cable, right?
Mm-hmm.
They need to invest in scaling that thing up, in speeding it up.
Larry, that thing, I blame Ellen. The fiber optic made landform in Liberia since 2012.
Right.
They borrowed, I believe, $19 million in the World Bank, and Liberia added some portion of that money to it. And the fiber optic, it's been there, and yet we have one of the worst internet systems in the world because they've not been able to ramp up the distribution of it to make it accessible. They've not been able to do that. Why? Nothing works in the country, Larry. Nothing works.
Right now, Alphabet is the parent company.
The parent company of Google.
You're the man. Alphabet is in Liberia helping another company. I can't think of the name, but USAID is working with Alphabet to put fiber optics all around Monrovia to speed up access to the internet. It's been going on for about a year and a half.
I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah, this company has done it in Ghana and other places, and they're working right now. Google is Alphabet, the parent company, is involved in that. There's about 8 million to get that thing done. Do you know how much you can increase the total output in that country by just making sure you have internet access?
I'm telling you, Larry.
University students can have access. Doctors are spending on average about 4 hours just to look up information on patients. Speed up the internet, let them have access. It will lower the cost of internet access. One thing, I don't know, man. You see, you have to live in that space, bring experience to understand some of the things you need to do.
Yeah.
They lack that. They've read the book, but they haven't played the game.
It's very, very sad. Someone said the name of the company is C Squared.
C Squared. On point. Who said that?
One Dauda Kiazulu says C Squared. That's the name of the company. I didn't know that.
Thank you.
Alphabet is in Liberia. Wow.
Yes. C Squared.
But Larry, why can't you hire Alphabet or one of these companies to help us run these internet, the fiber optic cable all over the place? We need high-speed internet. We need affordable electricity. Larry, what's wrong with taking $20 million in this budget and investing it in a solar farm? It has a 70% reliability. I mean,
it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Those are the
so that we can increase the national grid and make power more reliable.
Those are the game-changing events. What this budget says, Pedro, George, what this budget says, we need to restructure the entire government. The Ministry of Finance is getting about 50 something million out of the budget.
Yeah, because a good chunk of that money goes towards servicing debts.
Servicing debt. We need to break up the Ministry of Finance. I know Ellen was the one who brought planning and development to the Ministry of Finance. We need to break that up. The Ministry of Finance by itself is a big job. You need to have a separate ministry, and we need to get rid of the gender ministry and put it under Health and Social Services to kind of balance this thing out. Set up your development planning and economic growth. That team is all about planning, development, economic growth. And then what you need to do now, bring LACE. You see the budget with everybody doing a project here and there, it's all over the place.
There's no coordination.
Zero coordination. Bring LACE, the Liberian Agency for Community Empowerment. Bring them under this development planning and economic growth. Let them manage projects in the country. My man, let me tell you another thing. The projects they are putting in this budget, Liberia doesn't benefit from a lot of those projects. They don't benefit. Let me tell you why. When USAID, and I will take USAID as an example. When USAID put out a project out there, Liberians do not win these projects.
No.
They go out to a lot of companies in the US. You were over at the Senator Coons Global Leadership Conference. You saw all of the companies in there. Those are the companies that are doing international development in Africa. Tetra Tech, ABT Associates, Family Health International, all of these big guys, they're the ones who are winning these contracts. So when you look at the central bank's website, you can see remittances out of the country in the hundreds of millions. You bring LACE under this development plan and economic growth, take all of the projects across this country, put them under this development planning, let these guys manage the project. The finance ministry cannot run multiple entities. They haven't done a very good job at it. You need to restructure this government big time. But it's shocking, Pedro. It's shocking that the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs would get so much money, 43% increase in their budget. 43%, greater than the Ministry of Education, greater than the University of Liberia.
Man, what's
That
the
is sad.
explanation? You
Zilch.
increase the Ministry of State's budget by 43%.
43% year over year. Makes no sense
And
whatsoever.
the Ministry of State has no projects. They're not building roads. It's the Ministry of Public Works. And so why increase the budget? What they have, they basically salaries and stuff. That's all.
What has grown countries? What has grown Botswana? What has grown Singapore, Hong Kong? It's education. Put the money in education. Put the money in education. Look at University of Liberia. You saw pictures of University of Liberia, right? Do they have a decent lab? Do they have a roof that's leaking? Do they have a library, a serious library?
Nope.
Put the money in education. You're investing for the future. That's what this budget should be doing. Put money in the internet access. Let me tell you something else. There's this young man. His name is Selvin. He's got a team, and they're trying to put up a tech village somewhere I think it's in Nimba or somewhere. He's trying to put a tech village. It's an ambitious plan. Those are the people that you want to recruit to come to Liberia. Put money in the budget for economic development. Give those young people then the opportunity to invest. That's not what's happening in this budget.
Nope.
But somebody has to pay for it.
What's the money they had there for loans to small businesses and the Propo loan scheme? Nothing they say ever works.
But man, if you even look at Ellen's speech going all the way back to 2013, a lot of the loans one of the biggest problems is the ability for people to repay some of these loans. There are government officials, there are private citizens who are taking a lot of loans and they never pay. So the percentage of non-performing loans is extremely high. You don't find that in a lot of other places. You don't find that, non-performing loans at the level that we see at the central bank. No. At the level we see in Liberia.
But it's because these loans are often given to friends of theirs.
Exactly.
They're often given to themselves through phony companies. I mean, these guys were able to create phony money changers, ghost money changers, to give themselves the mop of money.
Yeah.
So what about loans? They're gonna give it, and who's auditing these loans? I mean, up to now, they can't give us any report on how they spent $25 million on the so-called relief program. You remember the feeding program that they launched?
Right.
What was it called again?
And we saw the trucks. They were loading up trucks. It was part of the COVID something, man.
The COVID relief program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they gave the money to to WHO, not WFP.
If the World Food Program.
Yeah, and they said they fed over 2 million people. Are you kidding?
Where's the data? These guys do not invest. First of all, they need to invest in what we call data repository, a global data repository. You need competent data. I heard on an interview, someone from the finance ministry would ask, how many jobs have you created? They don't know. What is the unemployment rate? They don't know. What? You don't know the unemployment rate in your country, how many jobs you created? They are counting petty traders, the Yana boys, then, as being employed. We're looking at employment in the formal sector. Do you collect taxes from the Yana boys?
Well, they have no real mechanism to collect taxes from them, But so, Larry, where do we go from here? There's going to be no real positive traction while the boys are in office.
There's really nothing that people can do, to be honest.
They're right off the next 2 years.
To be honest, look at the past 4 years. With all of the protests, with all of the complaints, nothing has happened. And one thing that kind of shocked me and caught my attention was when the LRA boss said, and the video is there, you can go to People's TV and you can watch the video, when he said, we're not afraid of budget shortfalls. budget shortfalls, you shouldn't be afraid of it if you're in the US, if you're in China.
Well, you have other ways you can cushion yourself against it, but not in Liberia. You should be afraid of it.
You should be afraid of budget
you have
shortfalls.
no means to really balance it out.
No. The only reason why they're putting the 145 million in loans and grants into that budget is because the PFM budget, it's mandated in that budget, the PFM law, the act. It is mandated in that law that you tell the people how you intend to close your budget deficit. That's why they put the $100 and something million in the budget. But they're not telling you who they're going to get that money from. This is what I went through the first few pages. I looked at the index. I read the footnotes. I said, "Oh my God!"
And Larry, did you see the letter from the World Bank? The World Bank has complained that we spend too much in this budget. They're spending a total of 81.9%. Just rounding up, the 82% of the budget on recurring expenditure. Now, that's a total of, the total recurring expenditure is projected at $643.2 million, which is a total of, as I said, 81.9%. Larry, who spends 82% of their budget on recurring expenditure?
That's a country that has no plan to develop.
So basically, the government exists, levy taxes, collect them, spend on yourself. And we're spending 18% of the budget on projects, what they call PSIP, Public Sector Investment Plan. That's it. Only 18%. 82% is for them to enjoy themselves. Salaries, cars, salary alone is $291.6 million. $291.6 million, which represents 45.3% of the total recurring expenditure. Larry, who does that?
That is not a development agenda. That is not holding true to the pro-poor agenda. That tells me that you're only here to kind of ingratiate yourself, to make yourself feel better. This budget is all about inflated egos, making people feel good, and hopefully to win an election. It doesn't help the people one bit, one iota. No one's going to benefit from it because you will enjoy today. It's Saturday night. You're at the party. You're going to have a good time. Tomorrow morning, you're going to have the hangover. And the hangover would be pay your bills, pay those debts from the international community. The IMF told them you need to stop deficit financing. You need to stop using money from the CBL.
Yeah, well, they stopped that a while ago. A few years ago now, they've stopped because they've been monitoring very closely.
Right. Now, that leaves the question. So if the CBL is not going to finance this debt, where are you going to get this $145 million or $125 million in loans to cover this inevitable deficit you're going to have? This is going to be one of the largest deficits you're going to see. Where are you going to get the money from?
They're going to borrow more.
Who are they going to borrow it from?
The IMF. Who lends them any money? It's the IMF.
The problem is that debt to GDP
ratio
is extremely off. It has doubled. There's a threshold when Greece hit around 60%. That's when the IMF said, "Oh, whoa, hold on one second. You guys need to stop all of this nonsense you're doing. We're at that threshold." Let me say something. Debt to GDP in developing.
Break that down for people a little. Debt to GDP ratio, folks. On the left hand, how much money you owe, that's your debt, your total debt stock. On the right hand, your GDP, the overall output of your economy. What percentage of your debt is your GDP? Now, our debt stock is just about $1 billion.
It's over $1 billion.
GDP is about what?
It's around 2.9. 2.9.
Our real GDP. So it doesn't look good. It looks like a third. It's about 30-something% of our, so our debt to GDP ratio doesn't look very, very good. But anyway, go on.
So
and,
say for
and they have a threshold to how much you can borrow based on your debt to GDP ratio.
And so I will tell you two things real quick what that's all about. So say, for example, you're making about $500 and you owe about $100. Let's say 20%. Not so bad. Somebody want to lend you money. They would say, okay, they're not making 500. When I look at all of his debt, he only owe $100. Not so bad. You're making 500. The amount of money you owe has gone from 100 to about, let's say, 300. Now you're becoming risky in terms of me lending to you because that only leaves about, say, $200 that you have at your disposal to pay your debt.
Your high rate.
Your high, right? At the same time to feed your family and do some other stuff. So the higher your debt starts coming to your total output, the more riskier you become, and people will not lend money to you.
You got to keep them far from each other, not close.
Right. But in developed economies like in the US, it is not a big deal because the US debt to GDP, even in Japan, is astronomical.
My man, the national debt here is about 28, 29 trillion dollars. And the GDP is about 19 trillion.
They
don't give a damn.
They can. You see every year how Congress have this big fight about raising the debt ceiling.
Yep.
And what happens? And they raise it.
Every year they raise it.
If they need
even
money,
the Republicans, even Mitch McConnell, they were all talking about they were not going to do it, but they got to do it.
If they don't do it, they will default on their debt.
And you don't want to do that. Woo.
And when you default on your debt, your credit ratings go down, and nobody wants to lend you money.
Economy.
That's why if Liberia doesn't even have a credit rating. That's the problem. That's another problem.
All right, how you go credit rating?
We don't even have a credit rating.
Credit rating.
Yeah, they don't have a credit rating. Country like Ghana have
but
credit
you need credit rating to be able to borrow from private lenders.
Exactly. You need, if you're going to raise money, something called a Euro bond, meaning I can borrow money in euros, I can borrow money in dollars. I need to have credit rating because people need to see my ability.
That's why we can't go to this people to borrow from them. We can only borrow from the IMF.
And some shady people like Eton and Iboma.
Yeah, which don't exist, by the way.
That's the problem. Ghana went to the capital markets and raised over $1 billion. There was even a tech company in Nigeria that raised recently $1 billion.
They can do that because they have a credit rating.
They do.
Standards and Poor's, and what's the other one?
It's Fitch, Standards and Poor's.
Yeah.
It's Fitch, Standards and Poor's. I know Dun and Bradstreet.
To have a credit rating.
Yeah, Moody's investors.
Moody's, yeah. They have to. There are lots of data points and that they have to collect and analyze and all of that. We don't have the capacity.
We don't have the data
to provide that kind of data.
No. So that's why your budget should invest in it.
They're doing inspection, they allow you, but we can't inspect you because there's nothing. Where will start from?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
I'm telling you, if you start investing in these things now, it would pay dividends over a year, 2-3 years.
But first of all, Larry, you need to understand the people we got who run these systems. Most of them don't even understand these things.
They don't. They read the book. They know the theoretical stuff, but they haven't played the game. They haven't played the game. They haven't been in there where your job is on the line, your life is on the line. They haven't played the game, and they're taking bets on the Liberian people's lives right now. They're taking bets. They're not investing in the right places, and it's a shame. It's so sad. And here's the thing. Another thing with fame, we're a rentier nation, right? We rent everything.
Yep.
All of our minerals. What these guys having? So two things real quick. We know, I think rubber is going to do well over the next year. Because
iron ore.
Iron ore is going to do well because there's some things taking place in China that's going to help iron ore.
Yeah, it's currently doing well already. That's why, hence the expansion deal from ArcelorMittal, which is a bad deal for us, by the way.
Yeah. But rubber is going to do well because who owns Firestone?
Bridgestone, one of the largest tire makers in the world from Japan.
It's a Japanese company that owns Bridgestone.
Bought it in 1988.
You're the man, Don. So if I'm a financial analyst, if I'm a financial economist, if I'm looking to see how well rubber is going to do, I'm looking at Bridgestone stock. I'm looking at Bridgestone annual report. I'm studying what Bridgestone is doing. Are you aware that Bridgestone is trying to move away from using rubber, especially the rubber that comes from Firestone? Are you aware that Bridgestone has they're growing a new type of tree that produces rubber in Arizona? Bridgestone has a farm in Arizona. They've been doing this over 10 years or so. So don't think that Firestone will be pumping out, and of course, Liberia is one of the highest producer of rubber.
I'm telling you something, Larry. Natural rubber, of course, we are. So, yeah, I'm sending you an article published by the LA Times, March 18, 1988, when Firestone, this is the title of the article, Firestone agrees to sell to Japan's Bridgestone for $2.6 billion cash.
Right.
This is March 18, 1988.
That was when Bridgestone took over Firestone.
Yeah.
That is correct.
2.6 billion. There is the article. You have it. Now, here is the point. The GDP of Liberia at this time was about $1.6 billion. So Firestone was sold for $1 billion more than the entire GDP of the entire damn country.
Imagine what we could have done with that money.
Exactly.
We're renting our resources, and your resources is not going to be there forever.
Nope. That's why you must leverage them to the fullest.
That's why, you
so
have to take advantage.
Sustainable economy that will not be dependent on those resources which are finite.
Exactly.
But we're not smart people, Larry. We're not smart people.
We're renting access to the fish, the ocean. So who was it? Senegal?
Yeah. Right now they're there. We have 3 large trawlers from Senegal, originally from Spain, but they're registered and operating in Senegal, and they are there. And they call it experimental fishing. And there's no such thing as experimental fishing with large trawlers. Experimental fishing is for scientific purposes. And the guys, people fishing shrimps. And shrimps, they're very expensive. These are high-end premium shrimps. My man, we just look, everything we do, Larry, man, we're just a terrible, terrible people.
And this is why we're not poor by accident. It's designed by
deliberate action.
By deliberate action. People are entrenched in the system. They want to keep the system a certain way to keep the people poor. Because why aren't you investing? Why aren't you putting so much money in education? Educate the people. I mean, do you realize that if you educate the people and you grow the economy, if the people benefit, everyone gets to benefit as well.
Yeah, but that's not what they want. Keep the people in the dark. That means don't educate them so that you can manipulate them, so that you can oppress them, so that they are more manageable and susceptible to oppression and marginalization. Educate them and they begin to ask more questions. And many more of them begin to ask more questions and begin to demand more. So this is not just this government. It's been a systematic thing in Liberia. That's why our country that has a 75% illiteracy rate. Are you kidding?
Yeah. People cannot read a fitting sentence.
No.
And then you're putting money in the Ministry of State.
And where in the Ministry of State, you're increasing the budget by 43%.
43%.
And where the president exactly even reads. He's talking about what? Larry, big here. Look, George, let's take a couple of calls there. Larry Kennedy is our guest this morning. We're discussing a whole host of issues, particularly centered around the national budget, the draft budget, $785 million, a whopping amount of money. If this budget were to be recalibrated to reconsider our priorities and cut all the fat, slice the fat and move those fats to those savings to development multipliers. They call them development multipliers, the things you can invest in that can spur development, electricity expansion. What would it take us to invest in a wind farm, a solar farm, to increase our national grid, to cut the cost of power in the country, significantly reduce the cost of power, so that it would significantly reduce the cost of operation, the cost of doing business, the cost of production? It would do that. It enhanced the quality of life in the country. What would it take us to improve, to invest in internet expansion, taking the internet to the people? What would it cost us to do that? My man Larry, I drove from Ghana all the way to Benin. And as we drove from Togo to Benin for at least 200 miles or about 400 miles, Larry, my man, I saw fiber optic internet cable being run over hundreds of miles.
That's a game changer.
My man, I was like, before I went to Benin, I always felt this country was a backward place. Liberia was much better than they are. And I was shocked by what I saw. Hundreds of miles away from the capital, Cotonou, these people, Larry, were running fiber optic cable.
Yeah. That's the game changer.
George, do you have a caller? Let's take a few calls before we let Larry go. Our time is up.
Okay. Okay, 0770-102-102, 0886 010-TD-ATD. The WhatsApp number +231.
Larry, you should read the article, my man. $2.6 billion in cash.
Yeah.
Let me read a little bit about it. Rebuffing the merger off from Pirelli, the Italian tire maker. Firestone Tire and Rubber has agreed to be acquired by Bridgestone Corporation of Tokyo for $2.6 billion in cash. The two companies announced Thursday. The $80 per share transaction, that means they were buying Firestone at $80 per share. That's what amounted to $2.6 billion. The $80 per share transaction would make Bridgestone the second largest tire manufacturer in the United States, a market that the Japanese tire maker has found tough to crack. Now, Larry, listen to this. Bridgestone bought our Firestone. Well, when I say our, it's in our country, at $80 per share for whopping $2.6 billion, $1 billion more than the GDP of Liberia in 1988, in order to help Bridgestone become what? The second largest tire maker in the United States, which is the world's largest tire maker. Tire market.
Yeah.
That made Bridgestone much, much more profitable. It increased their market capitalization because they made one deal. They bought the single largest rubber plantation in the world.
Yeah.
From one of the poorest countries in the world. And what has Liberia benefited?
You know what it does, Pedro? It tells you the true value of our resources.
Precisely.
We don't know the true value.
Only to the foreigners, only to the people who come from abroad and exploit it. This same Firestone, back in 1926, the reason Harvey S. Firestone went there, because the United States government, when they had just come out of the first World War, which ended in 1918, the U.S. automobile industry was booming.
Right.
And rubber being a cheap raw material, they needed a very affordable and steady supply of rubber. At the time, Great Britain controlled rubber price in the world because rubber was being produced in British colonies or former British colonies. And they didn't want, in fact, mostly they were British colonies at the time. By 1918, most of those countries like Ghana and other places hadn't gained independence. And so they needed cheap rubber. And Britain wasn't allowing them to do that. And it was suffocating American industries. And the U.S. went looking for a country where they can grow rubber cheaply in order to wean themselves, W-E-A-N, to ease their dependence on British-controlled, British-produced rubber. And Firestone was the solution. Liberia saved American industries and helped spur the growth of American industries by supplying them affordable, cheap rubber.
We have the resources. We just don't know how to.
Yeah. And the American industries grew exponentially. And how the hell we didn't grow?
But you see, because Bridgestone recognized that The resources is, like you said earlier, finite. It's, you don't have an endless supply of rubber trees. Even though, they're saying, hey, every time you cut down a tree, you have to replant. That's why Bridgestone is now investing in an alternative. They've been investing in it for over a decade. And they've been testing it. At some point, if they cut off the relationship with Liberia, which I doubt it will ever happen, but it might just not import as much from Liberia because it'll be so much cheaper to grow your own. If we're not prepared, if we haven't diversified our economy, we're going to catch a lot of hell.
My man, something has got to be wrong with us, Larry. I'm reading this stuff and I'm saying to myself, Liberia has saved the American economy, in this way. Look, some of you overlook this thing. Before there was artificial rubber, there was only natural rubber.
Only natural rubber, yeah.
And that's why Firestone was so important, because this was the single largest rubber plantation in the world. Now we've been eclipsed by Indonesia. I think
exactly.
Malaysia. I think Malaysia or Indonesia. One of those countries. Malaysia, actually.
Yeah.
But for a long time, we had the single largest, and we were the largest producer of natural rubber in the world. And Larry, things will not always remain the same. The reason rubber price took a nosedive globally is because of the increased demand or shift away from natural rubber to artificial rubber.
Right.
Because you can do much, much more with artificial rubber than natural rubber. And artificial rubber is cheaper. And
so much cheaper. Synthetic rubber, so much cheaper.
And say, we've got iron ore, we will always have iron ore. You will not always have iron ore.
Not going to happen.
So build your economy in such a way, like the way the countries such as the UAE and Saudi Arabia, particularly the UAE, they're building the economies like Qatar in such a way that they're moving away from the dependence, so that when the oil reserves run out in 50 years, which is what, most of the experts are projecting, in 50 years, the world will run out of, fossil fuel based, oil and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They would have an economy that would not need it. That's why Dubai, they've become the financial hub.
That's what happened to Singapore and the Philippines. They became financial hubs.
They become financial hubs.
Yeah.
They
That's
don't
why you
need
need the
oil
internet
anymore. Their economies are moving far away from that.
Yeah.
But look at us. All day we signing concession agreement, and we are not taking advantage. We're not leveraging. Look, Larry, you've got the Wolagizi. Wolagizi has, at least, according to some data, preliminary some data. Well, billions, at least 10 billion tons of iron ore that could be sitting in the Wolagizi. Larry, we could do further assessment, further exploration, have an accurate or more realistic assessment in terms of what those deposits are, the grade of ore, the total value. And Larry, we could form a national iron ore company. We will call it the Lone Star Iron Ore Company, and go and securitize that. Securitize it and raise billions of dollars and come back to the country and then find a technical partner. We've got the iron ore mine, we've got the company, we now securitize it by we leverage our natural resources. We don't have to sell them on the cheap for freaking pennies on a dollar in royalties and taxes.
And that's the key to development.
Hey, man, Larry,
the whole process of securitization. The whole
securitization.
I'm not sure if any of the guys that are at the central bank have ever lived through how to do the whole securitization process. I don't think they ever lived through that stuff.
But Larry, let me give you an example. There was a company in Liberia called Broadway Consolidated. These boys had Block 13, the oil block. They didn't have the resources to continue to do the exploration work, the exploratory work, looking for the oil. That thing is expensive. $1 million a day to hire a drill ship. So NOCAL at the time issued what was called a mandatory divestiture. That they ordered Broadway Consolidated to divest itself of the interest in oil block 13. That means give it up. That's what the folks, for those of you who don't understand that phrase, mandatory divestiture is when a regulator tells you you must get rid of this asset you have that you're holding because you don't have the resources, you don't have the capacity. So NOCAL ordered a mandatory divestiture of Block 13 held by Broadway Consolidated. You know what Broadway did? Broadway got up and went to this startup stock market in Canada, I believe in Toronto. And they were looking for partners. They said, look, we've been ordered to divest ourselves and move on, but we want a partner to come in with the resources so you can help us to continue to do the exploration. They went, they securitized. The government of Liberia allowed them to securitize an asset that belongs to us. Right? Yeah. You can't rent my house for 10 years. We sign a 10-year lease. Then I sign up on you going to use my house that you rent as an asset, as a collateral to secure a loan. Larry, they allowed Broadway Consolidated to go and do fundraising using our asset as a collateral. Essentially, that's what it did. They securitized it as a prospectus. Then they found a partner called COP, Canadian Overseas Petroleum Limited, COPL. COPL said, oh, fine. We're going to come in with you. Give us some shares. They raised millions of dollars. I believe they raised about $20 million. When they came, they changed the name of the company from Broadway Consolidated. They changed it to Pepper Coast.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why they changed the name, Larry, was so, shrug off their
bad reputation.
Some of your bad reputation and stuff like that. They set up a new company. They did rebranding. With the money they got from from Canadian Overseas Petroleum Limited, they were able to resuscitate their exploration activities. And eventually they signed a deal. They signed a licensing deal. They farm out this Block 13. They transferred their holding rights to ExxonMobil.
Made a killing.
And they made $150 million.
All using our resources.
They used our oil block.
Yeah, without lifting a finger.
Which they were ordered to divest themselves of because they could no longer afford to operate it. They went to Canada in Toronto and used that oil block as a collateral. They securitized it and they raised money. So, Larry, if they could securitize our oil block and raise money,
the obvious question
is why couldn't we do it ourselves?
Why aren't we doing it ourselves? Exactly.
Why aren't we forming national iron ore mining companies, logging companies, gold mining companies, paying to get exploration done and using that data, that exploratory data, the data that was the data of the various finds and what diamond fields and gold fields. We can use that data. Look at Hummingbird, Larry. Hummingbird, this gold mining company. Hummingbird signed a 25-year concession agreement with the government the last time. Larry, you should look at that deal. It's terrible. Do you know what our royalty is, Larry? Our royalty in the deal is 4%. It's a portrait 4%. Hummingbird said, and I will send you the concession agreement. Hummingbird announced that this was the largest gold discovery in the Republic of Liberia's history. According to Hummingbird, the 25-year concession agreement to exploit the gold from that particular area, they said that their concession area sits on at least, they said $6 or $7 billion worth of gold. Now, Larry, you got $6 or $7 billion worth of gold, and our royalty is what? 4%.
We don't know how to do valuation.
Jesus.
We don't know how to do valuation. That's why you have the Chinese coming in, doing these valuations and making these little, small payments to us.
Larry, that signature fee, that money
that's what
nobody can get.
They think it's all about signature
They
fee.
get paid a little bribe, so sign off on those deals, Larry. That's what they're concerned about.
Yeah.
They're not concerned about what dividends will be accrued onto the country and the benefits for the people. They don't care about
It's short-term. It's short-term thinking, and everything they're doing is all in the extractive sector. Everything that makes the whole economy at risk. If anything happens, we need to watch what's going on around the world, because take a look at the new COVID variant. What's going on right now? If countries start shutting down, because right now this budget is based on the expectation that global economy is going to pick up. What happened if this new variant leads to countries shutting down? We know there are countries right now. We know Angola right now closed their borders with South Africa. They closed their borders. Anyone coming in from South Africa, from Lesotho, from even Botswana. We know Angola has done it. We know Australia has done it. We know Brazil has done it. So there's that risk that anything happening outside of Liberia's control can completely tank this budget.
Sorry for holding you there. For interrupting you. So I have the Hummingbird thing in the highlight of it. Let me just read the highlight. The Mineral Development Agreement of the 4.2 million ounce project. This is 4.2 million ounces of gold. Larry, 4.2 million ounces. How much is 1 ounce of gold? Larry, while I'm reading it, you look at the price of 1 ounce of gold. The MDA of the 4.2 million ounce project, which includes a land package of about 2,000 square kilometers, has a 3-year initial exploration term and is flexible in that it offers a choice to extend the MDA into additional areas with geological continuity and the option to develop more than one mine and continue exploration on a regional scale. The fiscal terms of the agreement include a stabilization of taxes and duties for 15 years. Larry, you know what this means? Stabilization of taxes for 15 years. That means the rates that are agreed upon, the tax rates for this deal, will remain consistent, will remain stabilized for 15 years straight. The tax rates for 15 years. Larry, how you sign a deal with me and tell me, say, in the next 15 years, you sign a rental agreement and say, my property value will not go up in 15 years.
Okay.
Larry, you sign a deal with me and you tell me that property value keeps going up. But you sign a what? You have a stabilization clause. That means for 15 years, Larry, the taxes and the duties will remain stabilized for 15 years. Nothing will go up for 15 years. Jesus Christ of Nazareth. What? Let me go further. A 10% free carried shareholding for the government. Now they say we got 10% free. Now, you know how they do that? How they ensure that 10%? You really have nothing much? Transfer pricing, Larry. They're going to sell the gold to another company for cheap so they can lower your dividend check or your dividend payments.
Right.
Because that's how they determine. Then they're going to jack up their cost of operations so that the net profit is reduced. So that the 10% you end up getting is nothing. Transfer pricing. It's a combination of creative accounting, selling to a middleman as opposed to selling to the direct market, all kinds of ways to get away with paying you your Fed shares or dividend. Royalty of 3%, income tax of 25%, and a signature bonus of $1.5 million. Larry, let me say it to you so you can read it. You signed a deal potentially for 4.2 million ounces of gold, and the signature bonus is $1.5 million, and the royalty is $3 million. 3%, and a stabilization of taxes and duties for 15 years of the 25-year agreement, Larry? Didn't I say you?
So it was a little over 4 million ounces of gold, and gold right now is up 10%. It's trading at around $1,792
per ounce.
per ounce. Gold is trading.
So what, you said 1,000 what?
792.
1,792 would take out the current thing, you know, 4.2 million ounces. Yeah, so it's actually 7.5 billion.
Yeah.
7.5 billion worth of gold. That's what the company said they can find. $7.5 billion worth of gold is for Hummingbird. And we give them a 15-year stabilization of taxes and duties. 15 years. So for 15 years, even if the taxes in your country go up, the taxes for that company can go up.
How do we fall for these?
Now you sign a $7.5 billion deal and they pay you $1.5 million in signature fee, man, Larry. And I don't sign the deal.
It's bad. It's bad.
My man, Larry, you sign a $7.5 billion deal and you get a $1.5 million check.
Yeah.
And your royalty is 3%, Larry. What's 3% of 7.5 billion? Let's do the math. We're gonna do the math.
210 million around there or so.
Yeah, we're gonna do the math. 0.3. No, 0.03. 0.03. 225 million.
Okay. That was
your royalty of 3% against 7.5 billion over a 25-year period is $225 million.
That's why when people say we have the resources, but the country is still underdeveloped, it's because we're renting everything. You're
rent-seeking state. Larry, you gave away $7.5 billion for $225 million?
Exactly. And we brag about the things we don't need to brag about.
Damn it, man.
Nah. The thing is upside down, man. It's completely upside down.
I say we're stupid, they can say I'm insulting us. But Larry, who signs a deal like this?
Yeah.
My man,
it's sad.
The maximum I'm gonna give you under the stabilization of taxes and stuff, that 5 years. I give you 5 years. In 5 years, nothing will increase for you. Everything will remain the same. Duties and taxes stabilize for 5 years, but not 15 years.
And
thank you so much, man. Let's give you a minute to close up.
So yeah, I mean, it's always good to have these discussions. I think we need to spend more time educating the people so they can understand why the things that are happening to them, why it is happening, so they can be able to make informed decisions. Because we see if we don't make certain changes right now, we will continue down this path, and eventually it might lead to situations and consequences that we don't want. So it is so important. I hope the legislator will take a very close look at this budget. Someone has to pay for it. They need to be asking the question, how are we going to pay for this? Are we going to keep paying for this by borrowing and borrowing and borrowing? What's wrong with just bringing the budget down where you can even have a surplus? You can use the surplus to pay down your debt.
Nobody want to brag. They want bragging rights, Larry, for political reasons.
But this budget is part 3 to this whole saga we're seeing. And eventually it's going to end up costing the Liberian people a ton of money because we have to pay for it. Nothing is free. We all know that. It's basic economics. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Nothing is free. We have to pay for it eventually. So let's keep discussing this budget, man. Hopefully the lawmakers will listen, pay attention, and will make the right decision for the people.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much. When we say Liberians are stupid, we don't mean every single Liberian. I'm not stupid. And lady, you are right. You are not stupid. But the people who make these deals on our behalf, these deals are they're a clear manifestation of patent stupidity. I mean, who signs a deal like this? A $7.5 billion deal, and then you get $1.5 million in signature bonus. I mean, signing bonus. That's what you get. That's what I would get. And then what? 3% royalty 3% royalty, which is $225 million off of what, $7.5 billion, and then you celebrate this kind of deal. Something has got to be wrong with you. You know, something has got. What's wrong with us getting 10% royalty? What's wrong with us getting 20% royalty? Because we own a resource, but we get 3% royalty, and talking about 10% free carried interest. Free carried interest. Go read transfer pricing, folks. Let me tell you, go read transfer pricing and see how big corporations and especially companies that do mining and stuff in Africa, what they do to avoid paying the fair equity to the countries in which they operate. Transfer pricing is what they use. It's a mechanism whereby they take the water out of your country and they're supposed to give you 10% in this water company, right? As your share, as your country. What they do is that, but they only give you 10% of their net profit after expenses. 10% of net profit after all their operational costs and their expenses. So what they're going to do, first thing is they're going to use a combination of creative accounting in order to jack up, to increase their cost of operations and their expenses so that they can lower the net profit because they pay you 10% of the net profit. Then they're going to also use transfer pricing. Rather than bringing the water and selling it directly to the market, they're going to tell you, no, they're not going to sell the water directly to the consumer. They're going to bring the water, when I say consumer, they're going to bring the water and sell it to a middleman. So they're going to sell the water at a lower price, lower than the market price. So that, normally that company they sell it to, the company right there in the middle is owned by them. ArcelorMittal does the same thing. Companies like Rio Tinto, those big mining companies all over the world, that's what they do in third world countries. So they do transfer pricing. So rather than, if this thing is going to be sold directly for $5, they're going to sell it to a company for $3.50, and that company, they own that company. That company will then go on and sell it. They're not going to bring it straight from that company and sell it and from their factory or from their mine and sell it directly to buyers on the world market. No, they're trying to find ways to sell it cheaper to themselves through a company they own so that they don't get to pay you your fair share. It's called transfer pricing. That's what they do. That's what these big companies do. And they get away with that in Africa because our people are corrupt. And they should easily find out what are the companies they sell to. ArcelorMittal does not take the iron ore directly to their mines. I mean, to their smelting plants where they make the steel. ArcelorMittal is the world's largest steel maker. They used to be called they used to be called Mittal Steel, founded by an Indian man called Lakshmi Mittal. And they a couple of years ago, they acquired or they merged with the French steel maker Arcelor. So they're called ArcelorMittal. So ArcelorMittal is the world's largest steel maker. So yes, they're in iron ore mining, but they also manufacture steel. They also make steel. So when ArcelorMittal takes the iron ore out of your country, ArcelorMittal does not take that iron ore directly to their smelting plant where they make the steel. You know what they do? They sell the iron ore for a cheaper price, a lower than market price, below market price, to a company that they own. Then that company then sells it to them, to their smelting plant. The reason they sell to a company they own at a below market price is so that they can cheat you, because they are supposed to pay you royalty and they are supposed to pay you a dividend, free carried interest. So they don't want to pay you your fair share because they're supposed to pay you that off of their net profit. Their net profit, not the gross, their net profit after all expenses, after everything. So when they declare finally that $1 billion is what they made in profit, and you're supposed to get 3% of that, that's what they're going to give you. But their real profit should actually be $1.5 billion. But they don't declare the real profit because they short sell. They do it deliberately. They sell to a company they own. The oil companies do the same thing. The oil companies will take the oil and they will sell it to a company they own. When they exploit the oil from your country, they sell it to a company they own. They call it transfer pricing. That company they own will buy from them at a below market price. And your government officials allow it, not just in Liberia, all over the place, because most Africans are idiots, a bunch of Sama swines. So they do it. Oh, some of you didn't know. I see ABKDA is shocked. You didn't know. You didn't know that. This is what they do. Go read up on it. Transfer pricing. They sell it deliberately to another company that they own, and that company they sell it for a lower than market price because they try to find a way. Like you myself own a piece of land. Eh? Okay, no, let's not say land. Let's say we own. I'm looking for something that has a cost of operation attached to it. We own a generator, and we're doing community power. You and myself, Abraham Kadia. Eh? We own a generator, a 100 kVA generator, and we are producing electricity and selling it for 12 hours a day to people in the community. You own 50% in the business. I own 50% in the business. But I manage the business. I do everything. So what we do is I have the accountants, they work everything, they run the numbers, everything. What we do is this. I don't want to pay you your fair share of the 50%, your dividend. So I run up costs. I find ways to increase costs. I tell you the maintenance was expensive. I tell you the people I pay, the salaries are high. I use creative accounting to do all kinds of things so that eventually what you get of the net profit, 50% of the net profit, will not be the same I will get. Maybe I will give you per quarter, I will give you $10,000. I said that's a net profit for the period from January to March, to end of March. But I'm gonna get more. Because you see, so that's the way it works. Transfer pricing. So the reason they call it transfer pricing is that they take the price of the iron ore, say it's $140 per ton. They will sell it to a company for $110. So you see, right there, during that transfer, $30 is already lost. It's not lost to them, it's lost to you, the country, because they're trying to lower it so that by the time they declare net profit, it's lower, but they finish making more. Transfer pricing, folks, go read about it. We've read these things. We know how these multinationals work. You understand? That's the way to do it. They jack up their cost of operations. They do creative accounting. They don't fully declare what they really got from your country. Thank you so much, folks. God bless you and have yourselves a wonderful, blessed day. We'll be back here tomorrow. George, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.